How you doing, speculators? I'm Rod, the Futures Fanatic. Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about multi-propping and trade copying. And if you don't know what either of those two things are, I got you covered. We're going to cover it both here in the blog, which I'm on right now, and I'm doing this video to give it a little bit more color. So I get asked a lot of questions about how I do this, which is essentially trade across a variety of different accounts and a variety of different prop firms. Also, if you're not familiar with this space at all and you're just a beginner and you somehow found your way to this video, check some of the links below. I got a lot of free courses and a free ebook on everything prop trading and futures trading and what this world is all about, so it'll have some context. But for those of you that are sort of on the inner circle already, let's talk a little bit about multi-propping and trade copying. And for this video, I'm just going to focus on one configuration and then go over a number of other ways that you can do it. In some follow-up videos, I might cover some other ways to do this, and you can always leave some questions and comments down below. All right, so I'll leave a link to this, which is my blog right here, and the first thing I did was write a little article with help, of course, ChatGPT, about multi-propping. And essentially, multi-propping is trading across multiple prop accounts while connected to multiple prop accounts, okay? You can also trade copy within multiple accounts at a single firm, all right? And I'll talk a little bit about that. But for the purposes of sort of putting it all together really quickly, we're going to talk about logging into accounts at a variety of different firms, let's just say 3 or 4 to start. And then we are going to use a trade copier to copy trades across all of those accounts. Now, before we get too far into this, you do have to know the rules at each particular prop firm. You have to make sure that they allow this to take place. Most of the ones that support Tradevate, which I'll get into in just a moment, are well aware that there are people that are doing this and you're not violating any of the rules. But make sure that you are well aware of what the rules are at every particular firm that you work with, so that the stuff that I'm describing in this video is not potentially in violation of any of those particular rules. All right, so I won't read this whole thing, but essentially multi-propping is what it sounds like. It is connecting to multiple prop firms and then using software and platforms to trade across those various firms at the same time. Now, the easiest way to do this is to work first with prop firms that support Tradevate, okay? Tradevate came around, I think about 2017, 2018, and a few years ago they were purchased by NinjaTrader. So now NinjaTrader and Tradevate are essentially the same company. They've merged a lot of their technologies. And because of this marriage or acquisition, it's more of an, it wasn't a hostile acquisition by any means, but far from a marriage. Well, maybe some marriages are hostile. Anyway, you get what I'm picking up. You see what I'm saying. Anyhow, the combination of Ninja and now Tradevate and all these firms that use Tradevate, these prop firms that use Tradevate, allow you to stitch these various things together. Now, I have here on the screen the various firms that support Tradevate. I also did another video where I rank a number of different prop firms, of which many that are on this list are included in there. You can check that out right here so you get a sense of which of these prop firms you want to start with. For today's video, I'm actually connected to Apex via Tradevate, Legends via Tradevate, and TickTick Trader via Tradevate. Okay, so those are the three that I'm connected to, and I'm also connected to my live NinjaTrader account. All right. Now, to do this, you do not need to have a multi-broker license or any special Ninja license. You just have to have Ninja, which you can get essentially for free, and then you have to have logins at a variety of different firms, which would be your Tradevate login. Okay. Many of these firms will also offer other connections. I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but for another video, I might go through ways in which you can connect to a variety of different prop firms using the Rhythmic data gateway. In this case, we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to start with Tradevate logins. So I'm connected to these. Now, there are a number of other firms I could connect to that also offer Tradevate, such as Tradefy, Elite Trader Funding, and a variety of others. Okay, and they're all contained on this list. Topstep, Blue Sky, Funded Next Futures, Trade Day is another really good option for that. Okay, now that is multi-propping, right? Getting accounts at multiple firms, and then how do we actually copy between those, or in some cases, just copy trades between accounts at a single firm, right? So I have over here at NinjaTrader, connected to NinjaTrader through Apex, I have about 10 Tradevate Apex accounts, and I could disconnect from Legends or TickTick or whatever and just use what I'm about to show you to just copy between accounts at the same firm. Okay, so it doesn't have to be multi-propping necessarily to use a trade copier. You're going to use a trade copier probably anytime you have more than 3 accounts. I don't think you really need a trade copier until you're trying to manage more than 3 accounts. All right. So what we're going to be using is something called Replicanto, okay? And Replicanto is an actual, should open it up over here. Wait, You can cut this part out. Now it opened it up over there. Jesus, all right. So Replicanto is from a firm called Flowbots, all right? Flowbots, and the software is called Replicanto. Now, I go through this in a lot more detail in the article here. Again, I'll leave links to these blog post articles. It's more than I can go into in this video. I know many of you don't necessarily want to read, so I'll cover this very briefly. Why Replicanto? Well, the reason I'm using Replicanto is because it's natively built into NinjaTrader, okay? So this is what it looks like, and you just install it directly into NinjaTrader as a plugin, and then you have this trade copying feature here, all right? This is not meant to be a tutorial on Replicanto. I'm just trying to put together the simplest way in which you can trade copy and multi-prop. So we're going to start with Tradevate, then we're going to use the Replicanto trade copier. And the way this works is you just set up an instrument right over here, then you pick a lead account, okay? In this case, I just have this account that starts with 258. All right, and then you you check on and off. If you click this on thing here, it will just sort by what you have on, right? Okay, so there you go. Sort by everything that I have on. And if I didn't want to replicate to, like, say, these 2 PAs, I just turn them off. If I didn't want to replicate to these accounts, I turn them off. Now, there's a number of other features here, having ATMs and market crossing and all this. I don't get into any of that. If you're familiar with anything I do on the Futures Fanatic channel, you can watch some of the other videos. I'm now live streaming Tuesday through Thursday for the last hour of the trading session, the New York trading session. Pop on in and see what I do. I keep things very simple in terms of the levels and the strategies and the approaches, and I do the same thing with trade copying, okay? If you have ATMs turned on for a lot of different accounts, you're going to have some syncing issues. I'm not saying that you shouldn't trade with stops and targets. You can play around with it and see what happens. I just keep it very simple, and I tend to not get out of sync or have any fill issues because I keep it simple. So in other words, I'm just doing the exact quantity. So for instance, if I trade one, let's just do a little example here. If I put an order in right here to buy. Order submitted. Okay, that's now going to be resting an order in every single account. Okay, so this is an important point, is that what trade copiers do is copy the orders, all right? They don't copy the fills. These are limit orders, and most of the time they're all going to get filled at the same price. But what you're going to want to do is always have Replicanto up over here, and when things get filled, then you can actually see the average price and all the information. Actually, let's just do it. These are just PAs, so what I'm going to, not PAs. So let's just do it live. Let's turn this off, and we'll do it across all of these accounts. There we go. That's fine. Pick a time, go long, and let's buy the ask. Order filled. Okay, so we're long now, and we should be long in all of these accounts. All right. Now, what's really nice also is that you have the opportunity to manage your trades from this area right here. Okay. So you can see what the quantity is, you can see the side, you can see the P&L, right? And let's say I wanted to close it in 265 and 264. I could just hit close and close, right? So let me just do that. I'll close those two. And now it turns to yellow because it's indicating that it's now out of sync. Okay, it's out of sync with the lead account that's 258, right? If I wanted to turn these all green, now if I do something like that, what I would often do is turn these off, because the moment I hit the close button here, it cancels all orders in those accounts, all right? Now, I'm not going to go too much more into this because I don't want it to be an in-depth tutorial on Replicanto. You really don't need that. If you're interested in stitching this all together, there's plenty other resources out there for that. And if you check out my PTR Pro Trade Room or the Prop Done Right ebook or anything like that, find out a little bit more about TDG, my trading community. We have plenty of resources to help you get familiar with how to set this all up and get it going. Because if you're not already using NinjaTrader, this whole thing is a bit of a beast, right? So the order that you need to go is start with something like my Futures Foundation course, which is completely free. Understand what's going on in this particular space, why you might want to do prop trading, all those types of things. This is a little bit more advanced for people that are already familiar with the prop and they've chosen NinjaTrader and they want to know how to maybe take their trading to the next level. Now, in order to close this all out, I could close them individually here, or I can come over here and hit close.
Order filled.
And then we're closed, okay? And now you can see how these 4 accounts are still on and they're saying they're in sync because I'm totally flat, and I can click any of these other ones and we would be in sync because there's no trades in any of those. All right, so that's essentially the way to do it. You start with Tradevate, Ninja as your platform, prop firms that support Tradevate, and rather than get into the best prop firms and everything, I cover that somewhere else. And then also the amount of contracts to trade and all those other things are covered elsewhere. We're just trying to talk about the trade copying and the concept of getting this all going. All right, so that is the first part of the article right there, which is this concept of multi-propping. And again, I go through this in a little bit more detail in terms of how I do it. I also set up like what I call scouting groups, in other words. So the nice thing about trade copiers is, of course, it multiplies your gains. Well, of course, many of us lose and I lose, and we don't want to necessarily multiply losses all the time. So what you can do is actually play around with it a little bit, where you might have some groupings that you start with, maybe a few accounts that get in a little earlier, or you sort of test the waters. It doesn't mean that you sacrifice these accounts and sacrifice these trades and do something different. You're still sticking to your strategy. You're just easing into the trading session, if you will, and I cover some of that right here. I also cover some of the rules to know before you start. I mentioned this earlier, that there are trading restrictions at certain firms, so you don't want to be copying to a firm that says, hey, you can't trade around this particular time or these instruments at these times. So make sure you do that, because the last thing you want to do is have, you know, a great winning trade that's copied across all these accounts, and yet you violated a particular rule in a series of accounts. There's also some firms that are specifically prohibiting copying across accounts. Bullinox is one of them right now, but they don't support Tradevate, so that wouldn't apply to this particular situation. There's consistency rules at some places as well. So again, moral of the story, just know what the rules are at each particular firm. The next thing is always start small with all of this. If you read my Prop Done Right ebook, I'm going to point in all different directions so my guys can link it somewhere here. The Prop Done Right ebook, I cover all this in a lot more detail in terms of how to ease in and when to know when you're ready to start multi-propping and potentially copying. I have a lot of people in my group that are doing extremely well with just a few accounts from one firm and are not doing any of these things. So by all means, it's not necessary that you rush into this, all right? So again, that's a little bit about multi-propping, and now a little bit more about some copying options, okay? So I mentioned why I start with Replicanto. It's Ninja native. It's pretty easy to use if you know how to use Ninja. It's pretty feature rich, and it's done a very good job, again, for the way I trade in keeping accounts in sync and keeping everything going. But a great place to start, if you're not anything Ninja and you just want to understand a little bit about copying, and this is probably an easier place to start for many people, is using a web-based platform from someone like TopStep. So I just switched over to what's called TopStep X. Okay, you can see in the upper left-hand corner here it says TopStep X. I always point in the wrong direction. Up there, TopStep X. There's a number of different prop firms that have white-labeled TopStep X, and they call it Project X. So if you ever see a firm that's using Project X, it will look a lot like this. And if you're familiar at all with TradingView, that's what they're using. They're using TradingView charts. Okay, there are some drawbacks and limitations to what you can do inside of these TradingView charts versus native ones, but they're still pretty good. TopStep X is the best way to learn how to copy within one firm, because the copier's built in, nothing to install, nothing to do. I have here 5 accounts. This says leader plus 4. Okay, so here's the lead account plus these 4 accounts. Now, one thing I want you to notice is the balance here is $51,461.99. I've gone into this in past. I don't fund any of these things. I got a killer deal. I hope TopStep never watches this. I hope they never change this. But I bought each of these for $5, and I don't plan on ever letting them go. I'm just using this to stay on top of what's happening in the platform world and in the prop world and stuff like that. But I do trade it from time to time. You can see this account's up. Each one of this account's up $1,461. But if you go to this one, it's $1,412.24. So there was at one point, I think these are all the same. These are all exactly the same. No, this one's 50 cents off and this one's exactly the same. So the discrepancy here is sometimes you can actually get a different fill in one account versus the other. You don't have to worry too much about that. If you read the Prop Done Right ebook, I know I keep sounding like a broken record. I've said in much of my content, I know a lot of you are guys. We have to tell you 3 times, XXX, new, girls, girls, girls. Listen, the best way to do this is to understand how these programs all work. If you do all that, then the discrepancy between your copy trades and your fills and all these types of things will not be an issue. Many people are blowing all kinds of non-issues way out of proportion relative to the important things. The important things is to manage risk, establish, protect, and respect a daily risk budget, and then, of course, have a strategy that's appropriate for trading small accounts, which is what these prop firms are. All right, enough of a sidebar. Getting back to this. This is how this works. This is how easy it is. Again, I have these 5 accounts here. This lead account ends with 470. You come over, hit this gear right here, and you come over to copy trading, and this is the lead account right here, and then all I've done is check each one of these as followers. That's it. If you want to take one of them out of the copier group, you just uncheck this or uncheck that, right? Uncheck this, uncheck that, save changes, and you're all set, all right? I will also point out that TopStepX done an amazing job of adding some global risk settings and account risk settings that the traders have been asking for a long time, and I've really been asking for. So TopStep's been a leader in this. There's some other firms that offer this now too, where you can set your own risk and your own parameters for how you're trading, both for profit as well as for loss. They're a little tighter than what the firms are going to allow you to do. So save yourself from yourself or lock in great gains, whatever the case may be. But back to copy trading, this is the copy trading approach. All right. Now, also going back to right here, the copy concept, there are a few other things here. So there's one called affordable indicators. And again, I'm not going to go through a review of all these, but I'll just bring it up here. This is actually called duplicate account actions. I'll leave links to all these things in the description down below if you want some coupons or discounts on some of these things. This is a one-time payment of $295 for affordable indicators. There are many people in my group that have told me and they like affordable indicators more than Replicanto. I don't know exactly why. I used it, I own it, and I used it for a while. And as far as I can tell, it's a damn copy of the thing. It's almost like they copied the same thing. It looks the same, it acts the same. So it's not an endorsement or disparaging necessarily. It's just, to me, it's the same. And in terms of things that look like copies, the other thing to know is that Apex Trader Funding, one of the largest prop firms out there, they white labeled Replicanto and called it their own copier. And that also is something that I would just not recommend buying. Look, Apex has made plenty of money. I'm good friends with all the people over at Apex. I'm an affiliate of Apex. I don't think you need to use their copier. If you want, their copier is Replicanto, and it's a little feature degraded from the most recent versions of Replicanto. And that's another reason I like Replicanto. They absolutely are way on top of, I think it's only one guy over there. They are absolutely on top of releases and patches and fixes and keeping up with everything to make sure the software's running well on the Ninja platform. Okay, a couple of other copy things worth knowing is you have the Tradevate account grouping. All right, I did a whole video on this. It's maybe almost 2 or 3 years old on account grouping within Tradevate. All right, and they do have a way that you can copy within accounts in Tradevate. It's not going to allow you to multi-prop. The only way to multi-prop is to use NinjaTrader connected to multiple Tradevate accounts and then use a copier on the platform to copy between the accounts that are connected. So you can't necessarily multi-prop with Tradevate, but if you're just logged into one firm and you have 3 or 4 accounts at one firm, like if you had take profit accounts, for instance, they use Tradevate, you could copy between all of your accounts on Tradevate. Now, whenever I mention Tradevate, I get a lot of questions about whether you can do this on TradingView. And the answer is not really, because here's the problem. On TradingView, you're only going, I'm connected right now on TradingView to a live account at Tastyworks, right? If you're not familiar, they offer all of the, let me just, I'll log out here. Okay, look at all these connections that they offer, okay? Now, if you connect to Tradevate and you have multiple accounts at the Tradevate broker or prop firm that you connect to, you will see them all, but you're not going to see them all in like a drop down. All it is you just see one. Well, let me actually connect to, I think I can connect to, no, I'm not going to do it here, but you'll be able to see all the accounts in the drop down, but you can't really manage it properly. So the answer is you can't really initiate trade copying using TradingView. You can manage trade copying using TradingView, and hopefully most of you will understand that if you're familiar with how these softwares are all sort of stitched together. Okay, so Tradevate's another way to go. Quant Tower is another way to go. That's mostly for rhythmic connections. Project X I already mentioned. There's a platform called Volumetrica that also has a built-in trade copier that's very similar to TopStep X. Now, the next two are kind of important because they're definitely different and they're beyond the scope of where I started this, but I just want to cover as much on copying as I can, which is this one's called ETP, or Expert Trading Programmers. By the way, if you ever have any programming needs for any platforms, specifically like MT4, MT5, NinjaTrader, and some others, these folks, they're based in Europe. They're excellent programmers. They can do custom programming for you. If you ever want any of that, just tell them Rod, the Futures Fanatic, sent you on over there. Now, they have a trade copier called ETP, the ETP Trade Copier, Expert Trader Programmers. What a clever name. The ETP Trade Copier. And without getting into too much detail, I'm not going to do a demo on this because I'll probably do a separate video where I go through copiers that are more rhythmic specific. So this one doesn't use the same protocol that's being used at NinjaTrader and Tradevate. It uses rhythmic connections. So if you are selecting rhythmic at a variety of different prop firms, you can use Expert Trading Programmers as a platformless way to do this. In other words, you can log into whatever rhythmic platform you want and then log in on the back end. This gets a little wonky, but you log in on the back end and you don't have to be doing it all on the platform the way I showed you on Replicanto. So a lot of people like this, but this is definitely when you're a little bit more sophisticated, okay? And another similar way to do this is a newer company called TradeSyncer. This is pretty awesome. I've used it. It's really good. It's also cloud-based. It's like platformless. Here's the problem with TradeSyncer, at least in my opinion, and I think I've spent some more time. I know they do have annual where you can save a whopping 10%, but this is a lot of money, right? Because affordable indicators is like $200 if you get it on a special. You can get Replicanto for like $150, and that's for a lifetime license for one or two IPs. So unless I'm misunderstanding, I think that this could get very expensive to pay monthly for your trade copier. If someone knows, leave a comment down below if they do offer like one-time pricing, but if they're charging $89 to $135 a month, when you are on the annual or on the lifetime, on the monthly, it's $150, if you will, for unlimited connections and 120 accounts. This is, let's just say it's $99 a month. You can still see how it's far more expensive than some of these other options. All right. Okay, we'll kind of leave it there for now. Again, I'll leave links to all this down below so you can find out more about multipropping. You can find out more about about trade copying. And again, the easiest way to do this, in my humble opinion, and I've been doing this a while, for the benefit of this video, I lost $6 and about $6 across 6 funny money accounts. So you're welcome. Anyway, you're going to use Tradevate. You're going to use Replicanto on Ninja. You're all set. There's plenty of other ways to do this. We'll see you at the next video. Please do like, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications. You know all the things. It really does help the channel, encourages me to continue to provide this type of content. You can check the description down below for how you can find out more about the Futures Fanatic channel, TDG, my traders dev group, where I provide education and a live stream for active futures traders and self-directed investors. Stay green, trade like you mean it. We'll see you at the next one.